The freedom to fly. Exploring amazing locations from the pilot seat of general aviation aircraft can be the most gratifying experience of a lifetime. But how do you get there from here? A single mile of runway can take you anywhere. This is where your journey begins. The aircraft is positioned to take off on a runway that points into the wind. Pre-flight, startup, takeoff checklists are complete. The Central Valley in California is generally defined as the center 1/3 of the state. The San Joaquin Valley is the single most productive agricultural region in the world, providing more than half of fruits, vegetables, and nuts grown in the United States. Crop circles can be seen as large, circular, lush green fields. They are created using center pivot irrigation systems, which are a more efficient means of irrigation. Most of the farmland plots are located along a grid pattern called sectional lines. However, there are areas adjacent to rivers and canals that break up the uniformity. After the takeoff and climb, we enter the cruise phase of the flight. The aircraft is not climbing or descending, nor is it accelerating or decelerating. In straight and level unaccelerated flight, the upward force of lift is equal to the downward force of weight, and thrust is equal to drag. Where a headwind is desired for takeoff, a tailwind is preferred for cruise flight. Finding an altitude you can take advantage of a tailwind will reward you with a higher ground speed. Riding the wind current is similar to a boat riding down a stream in a river. The extra push of a tailwind will help getting you to your destination quicker. You become a sort of time traveler when you notice the GPS estimated arrival time decreases from what you noticed during the climb phase of the flight. Towns and settlements were established and grew along the rail lines. Union Pacific Railroad and BNSF Railway operate commercial mainline freight through the region in the Central Valley. Highway 99 and Interstate 5 parallel the railway lines and run the entire length of the San Joaquin Valley. The California Delta is an expansive inland river delta and estuary. The delta is formed at the western edge of the Central Valley by the confluence of the Sacramento and San Joaquin rivers. The single-engine pilot can never get complacent, always remaining vigilant, monitoring your aircraft, its performance, and its systems. A good pilot is always looking for emergency landing fields should they encounter engine problems. Remaining a minimum of 2,000 feet above the San Luis National Wildlife Refuge, you can see a myriad of tree-lined U-shaped canals, wetlands, and native grasslands. Thousands of acres of wetlands, fed by an intricate set of canals and rivers, produce natural food supplies for migratory waterfowl. Herons and egrets nest in the mature oaks and willows and feed on the abundant frog and crayfish populations. A wide diversity of songbirds, ducks, hawks, owls, and elk also inhabit the refuge. After the spring rains, the coastal foothills will remain lush green for only a short time. They soon quickly return to their natural dry golden color for the remaining seasons. Pigeon Point Light Station is a lighthouse built in 1871 to guide ships on the Pacific coast of California. It is the tallest lighthouse, tied with Point Arena, on the west coast of the United States. It is still an active Coast Guard aid for navigation. Pigeon Point Light Station is located on the Coastal Highway State Route 1 between Santa Cruz and San Francisco. Mountain flying can be tricky for any pilot, and specific mountain flying instruction is recommended. Pilots are constantly dealing with the rapid, ever-changing weather patterns, mountain waves, wind shear, and density altitude. Wind rushing up the mountain slope and over the summit, called mountain waves, can produce incredibly strong updraft currents that can carry an aircraft upward at a rate of over 2,000 feet per minute or more. On the leeward side of the mountain, rapidly falling air currents can produce clear air turbulence and rotor patterns that can violently push aircraft down to the ground or into the mountainside. This downward airflow can be so intense that it exceeds the aircraft's climb performance capabilities, making it impossible to climb out of danger. FAA regulations state you must remain a minimum of 2,000 feet above the highest point within 2,000-foot radius of the aircraft's position while conducting flight operations above or near the Yosemite National Park. 30 nautical miles southeast of Yosemite Valley is a smaller, lesser-known granite dome called Fresno Dome. It is much smaller than Yosemite's Half Dome, but it also yields a spectacular view of the surrounding mountains and Central Valley. Flying over and enjoying the sights of the Sierra Nevada mountains can be a rewarding experience for any pilot. More than 7 million acres of the valley are irrigated via the extensive system of reservoirs and canals. Many reservoirs not only provide water and electricity, but also an area for fishing, boating, and outdoor recreation. Northern California mountains and valleys echo the beauty of the southern mountains. Mount Shasta is a volcano with its summit reaching 14,162 feet above sea level. Just getting some perspective, according to the Pilot's Operating Handbook and Flight Specifications for our 1969 Piper Cherokee, it has an operational service ceiling of 14,300 feet. South of the San Joaquin Valley, just over the Tehachapi Mountains, lies the Mojave Desert, a beautiful place to fly. Cool morning air is the best time to travel over the desert. The afternoons become highly active with thermal activity, resulting in strong winds and clear air turbulence. Takeoffs are optional, but landings are mandatory. Descents are an essential component of an approach to a landing. Normal descents take place at a constant airspeed and a constant angle of descent. The pilot controls the angle of descent by varying the engine power and pitch angle to keep the airspeed constant. I love everything about flying and the process of flying in the National Airspace System. However, the approach and landings are the most interesting and challenging phases for me as a pilot. It's not like parking a car. The airplane has no reverse, nor can it stop in the air. You must think and act ahead of the airplane. The landing begins 10 or more nautical miles away from the airport. Weather, wind direction and velocity, runway in use, other aircraft traffic, and more must be known before committing to the approach and the landing. Landing is typically thought of the last part of a flight, just prior to taxiing and parking. To land, the airspeed and the rate of descent are reduced to where the aircraft descends at a slow enough rate to allow for the gentle touchdown. This speed reduction is accomplished by reducing thrust and/or inducing a greater amount of drag using flaps, landing gear, or speed brakes. It is important to establish and maintain a stabilized descent rate. As the aircraft approaches the ground, the pilot will execute a round out, also known as a flare, to induce the gentle landing. Runways are typically configured to point into the prevailing winds within the region. However, that may not be the case when you reach the airport. There may be a crosswind or wind gust that you must contend with. As a pilot that is continually sharpening my skills, I enjoy flying on days that provide the extra challenge of a crosswind. It is extremely satisfying to successfully land in somewhat non-standard conditions. The pilot in command remains responsible for the safe operation until the aircraft comes to a complete stop, engine and systems shut down, and the aircraft is secured. No matter how old or young you are, if you have always dreamed about flying, take action today. Do not delay. Find your local small-town airport and ask for a discovery flight with a local flight instructor. That small local stretch of runway can lead you on to many exciting and amazing general aviation adventures. I am blessed to live in a free country where general aviation is practically limitless. I love knowing that I have the freedom to fly. Until next time, blue skies and tailwinds. Fly safe.